YouTube, it is I, Sakarma, coming at you with some early access one-on-one action here, myself against Mordrin Orion, which I'm pretty sure is DahvPlays. I mean, I know it's DahvPlays. I don't know why he changed his name. You can ask him that yourself. DahvPlays, of course, a fellow YouTuber who I'll put a link to in the description below for his YouTube channel. But I want to show off some of the Legends of Renown for Chaos. If you guys will remember, the end of Game 1, Chaos was pretty OP after basically Dwellers Below Hammer and Transmission of Lead Hammer is what it turned into, the meta at least. Those spells were very, very overpowered. Of course, that's not the case in Game 2, but alongside the Warriors of Chaos and Kolek and a lot of buffs that Chaos got at the end of Game 1, they were very, very, very good. So I want to test out some of their Regiments of Renown so far. You will not see the Swords of Chaos in this matchup because I tried them a few times and I wasn't able to get them to work. I don't think they're very good, at least not, I haven't found them in a situation where they've been very good yet. But of course I don't want to, put any final verdicts out. So yeah, let's go through some of the some of the units I brought to see what Chaos can do in this new matchup. It's worth noting also, I built this army thinking I was fighting the Wood Elves. I thought Dahv said he was taking the Wood Elves, and I didn't really look at the screen. So this is a build that is meant to fight the Azrai, not the Asur. So yeah, it's a little bit of a a little funky compilation, as you'll see. Like, I would never have brought the Mirror Guard against the Asur, or sorry, against the High Elves. Asur, both of those work. There's just no point to. But yeah, you can look at these guys. They're fucking gorgeous, as they should be. Slaaneshi warriors. I mean, they're just so cool looking. They look like Roman gladiators. If Roman gladiators wore like all, I don't know, super shiny metal armor, they kind of look like Terminators. Oh no, Robocops. They look like Robocops, which is very cool. And of course, they have their mirror shields, although there's no mirrors on them for some reason. Because the story behind them, the lore, is that they Slaanesh made them wear shields so he could watch, or sorry, not Slaanesh, Sigvald rather, made them have shields so he could watch himself fighting, which is pretty classic. I mean, that guy's hardcore. He really took to heart Slaaneshi excess, so you gotta appreciate them. But let's look at their stats real quick. So 100 armor, very good. Well, pretty good. Silver shields, fantastic. Leadership, very high, 90, which is important for Chaos. Speed is 38, which is pretty high for Chaos. I mean, Forsaken obviously are pretty fast, but that's faster than Chaos Marauders. So they are quite fast with heavy armor. That's pretty impressive, and not a decent amount of health, not a ton, but yeah. So really, the speed is the one thing that sets them apart. Of course, they're immune to psychology, which is nice. They have 43 melee attack, 58 melee defense, which is super high. 38 weapon strength. How much of that is armor piercing? I'm not sure. Let's check it out. 9. So yeah, I don't know. 20 charge bonus is no slouch either. I don't know exactly. I think against Wood Elves they'll be a very good pick because of their speed and their armor and their shields. But I don't know in many other situations where they'd be very good. And of course I brought some Forsaken. We'll go to our comps later after I go through the Regiments of Renown. And over here we have the Demon Spew, I believe. Yeah, the Forsaken Demon Spew. So they are a fantastic unit. I think they're going to be pretty much a universal pick. They have 46 melee attack, 64 weapon strength when Frenzy's active, and 12 and that's armor piercing, which isn't great, but still, 64 is crazy high. Melee defense, 29, isn't fantastic. 75 armor is not bad, 500 health isn't great. But this is fantastic, this Swarm of Flies. So -5 melee attack. So they basically, and they do poison. So anything they get to is just a constant debuff. And they hold up for a long time with 85 leadership. What do they look like? They're like yellowish, eh? Huh, funky. They're like yellow. Oh, that makes sense. I guess they're like putrid and disgusting, and they have like little boils and pus balls exploding. Nobody likes getting pus ball goo in their eyes. It makes it very difficult to fight. So makes sense. And then yeah, so that's the two regiments around. Of course, I brought Starthrell the Everwatcher, and then I have some what do they call Marauder Horsemen on the flank with some Chaos Warhounds Poison. Again, thought I was fighting Wood Elves, so that's why I brought all this like very wide build. And then some Chaos Marauders, one Chosen. So let's look at the Chosen. So 46, 60, 44 versus 43, 58, 38. So pretty comparable stats. They have more armor, far more health, fewer models, more armor, and then they're very slow. So I mean, these guys are pretty comparable to Chosen. They're not going to be as sturdy, but they will be faster and then more mobile. So yeah, it's they're kind of like an in between regular Chaos Warriors and Chosen, which is where they should be. Anyway, so that's that. And then Dahv over here brought some regiments around of his own. He brought the Everqueen's Court Guards, which are they're very expensive unit. I think it's 1,400. So I think that makes them the second most expensive archery unit in the game, behind the Regiments of Renowned Weight Watchers, the Hawkeyes of Gobbledygook or some nonsense. I don't know. They're famous for they can fire an arrow into the tip of your toe from 8 miles away. That's what they do. Anyways, but these guys have crazy good stats. 32 armor-piercing weapon damage, or sorry, missile damage is insane. Obviously, fire and magic is going to make them very good against vampires. And then their melee stats are nuts, 45 and 63. I mean, that's pretty comparable to the Mirror Guard. Of course, they don't have the weapon strength or the armor or the health to match with that, but they have nuts stats, crazy range, 180 is very, very good. So I think they're very expensive, and you have to really, pay a lot of attention to protecting them, but they can come in handy, of course. Over here we have the new White Lions of Thrace, who have Armor Sundering, the pure main company. You can see they got Sundering, and they do magic attacks, very good for fighting certain matchups. 45, 46, amazing for their cost at 1,000. Low health at 5,400 isn't the greatest, but what can you do? 34 weapon strength is pretty solid. I mean, nothing to write home about, but armor piercing, can't go wrong with that. And of course, very high leadership, and 90 armor is not terrible either. And we have a Handmaiden coming in here, Handmaiden of the Ever Queen. So this is a very interesting unit. As you can look on the card here. So she's kind of like a true hybrid in that she does a little bit of everything, but nothing particularly well. So I don't know how great she'll be, but she has comparable stats to a noble, and she also has that anti-large bonus of about 35, which is pretty fantastic. So fighting large units, she'll be at 78 or 77 rather melee attack. However, it's not armor piercing. That's the problem. So it's gonna make it's difficult for her to get a lot of damage in very quickly. Charge bonus is not bad. Of course, she does do magic and flaming armor piercing ranged attacks. So maybe in certain matchups, and 90 speed is pretty helpful. In certain matchups, she can be great. I think she's very good alongside Alarielle, who we'll talk about in a minute because of those heals. But I don't know. We're gonna see. I tried around a different matchup against Dav, which I'll show later. But yeah, so that's another funky unit he brought. And he has, of course, the Keepers of the Flame, which we've seen a lot of, but I don't know. I've yet to try them myself. I've yet to see them perform particularly well. The problem is their Phoenix Guard, and it's the same problem all Phoenix Guard have, which is that cycle charging can render them, can neuter them pretty easily, and you can just avoid them. I mean, they're not going to cut through anything super fast. They're just like a really holding force. So if you have a strong back line of archers, I think you want to bring these guys to help hold that front line. But if you have a more mobile force, or you don't have too many skirmishers, or you're expecting a lot of skirmishers, or you're expecting to have to move, they're just I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough argument to ever bring them. Not to mention, of course, Fate of Buna makes them a very, very risky pick in the current meta. So there's that. And then we have Alarielle over here. Let's take a look at Alarielle. What does she got here? So she has Earthblood, makes sense, and Banishment, so 2 salt spells. Of course, Shield Stone of Isha, which is going to help everybody around her. Boon of Isha makes her immune to psychology, so not bad. And imbues magical attacks all around her, which can be helpful in certain circumstances. Obviously, you don't want to bring it against dwarves, that's not going to do any help. Make it useful. She has pretty jack stats for a caster. 45, 55 are not bad at all, and 390 weapon strength. Of course, not armor piercing, but still not bad at all. 98 leadership, pardon me, is pretty solid. Oh, that was a good burp. Then 3,800 points there. Not terrible, and 110 speed. So putting her in the air is pretty solid. Also because pretty solid. I've said that like 8 times now. Putting her in the air is actually not a bad idea, especially if you bring her with Tempest, which we'll talk about a little bit after. But let's get on with the fight. Enough of this dilly-dallying. You've come to see some action. So yeah, you can see he's got some spearmen in his front line. Oh, and his last unit I should have mentioned is the Scions of Machlahan, which are basically they just provide 12%. They're just a jack spearmen who provide I think 12%. I want to say 12% physical resist to everything around them. What is his ward save? I've never seen this one before. What's this mean? Oh, cool. So they have just a hard 12% reduction in damage. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. I think that might be new, unless I missed it before. But yeah, that's very, very interesting. So yeah, so they're good like to throw in the front line, and they're gonna help buff things around them. And I don't know if that applies to. I guess it does. Does it apply to Alarielle? I don't know. Sorry guys, one last slow. I just want to see if she also benefits from that. Physical resist. I don't know that she does. It'd be interesting to see if she does. Obviously these guys do. Yeah, 12%. I don't think she does. I don't know if it does. Does it say here? Let's check. Affects allies, but not less than 50%. I guess it does. I guess it applies to Alarielle. I don't know. I don't know if she has a base 18% because of Guardian. Oh, she would. Yeah. So look at that. So it does indeed stack. So we pause it because we're actually going to get here hot and heavy. So that's actually stacked. So these guys have Guardian, and so do they. So that's 80% for Lords, and that's 12% for all units around her. So these two around Alarielle give her a 30% reduction to damage. And if you put these guys around like Tyrion, who already has crazy high stats and high armor, they could be very, very good in the right situation. So that's interesting to note. A nice little synergy there. So you can see right off the bat, I get a Searing Doom on these guys. That's called Searing Doom, right? I don't want to pause it again. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to call it Searing Doom because I don't want to pause it anymore. So, and that's the problem when you bring a really expensive unit like that. You don't pay attention for a second, and I get a nice pickup doing a ton of damage on those guys. No model kills, so he can heal them up, but a good bit of damage. Over here, we're going to catch his Handmaiden of the Ever Queen and put her down. you know, not super quick. She does have pretty decent stats, but yeah, and he can heal. Of course, Alarielle can cast Earthblood for a reduced rate, so it's not, you know, the end of the world that he had to cast it, but still, we got good damage on there. He's going to obviously melt the Forsaken. This is just a perfect counter to Forsaken as a high armor-piercing DPS unit, like the Everqueen. But I'm getting around his flanks. He actually has 2 Handmaidens, so he wanted to see how they were going to do. And we'll see. Over here, I am going to put some damage. Of course, she is anti-large, but her armor isn't great, so the Sarthrell's going to do okay against her. And she's, but she, you know, I don't want to put Sarthrell too long in there. He, of course, does not have any way to heal. And then he brings Alarielle in here. And Alarielle's not going to do a ton of damage, but she's going to cast that heal, which is a good move by DahvPlays. I'm going to send these hounds in here to try and muck things up, poison things, and help them get out. And then send my Forsaken in here. Around the right flank, we've had the Demon Spew on this Handmaiden, who, again, doesn't have the greatest armor, so she will die quite quick to the Demon Spew. And I'm trying to push on the flanks. Over here, this fight is getting hot and heavy. They're casting a lot of heals. This is the Bound Heal spell, which is to heal everything in a little radius, so that's a great spell to help them out. But they are now fighting Forsaken, which is not a fight they want, and here come the Mirror Guard, again, a very good unit to deal with Spearmen and other units of that nature. In the front here, I'm trying to pull my Chaos Warriors out as far as I can and get them to fight my Chosen. But unfortunately, they do get caught, and then that's not the end of the world. That's the end of the world, but it's not the greatest thing to happen. I want them to be way over there, but they do get a nice rear charge from my Chosen, which is pretty solid. And these guys, of course, aren't providing the leadership, the Guardian bonus to Alarielle, so that's, you know, that renders them a little useless on that flank at least. Although they have a lot of other utilities, and I keep pulling them through these spearmen, or sorry, these halberdiers to bring them over here. So you can see the Keepers of the Flame are coming in here trying to help out. Another thing to note is just, I mean, White Lands are still broken. I mean, they're fighting Chaos Marauders, and I think they got 1 rear charge from Sarthrell, but otherwise they took a lot of damage from those guys, which is just sad. I mean, come on, White Lands of 3 should be able to cut through Marauders like it's their paper. But unfortunately, they're just not the greatest at it. The Keepers of the Flame are going to keep, you know, try and hunt down Sarthrell, but of course they're slow, and he has a ton of mass, so I don't mind that. I'll go a nice little charge here between the two of them, but Sarthrell is a little caught out. I'm going to cast, or he's going to cast Earthblood on this here, but I'm going to cast Plague of Rust, which is going to reduce their armor to 40, which makes them a little bit less likely to be able to hold out against the Mirror Guard. But they're getting a lot of damage on Sarthrell. Of course, I cannot heal, so that's not great. But I do get the Plague of Rust on them, and they're fighting Mirror Guard and Forsaken, so that should be able to bring them down pretty quick, as you can see. And then, of course, Sarthrell's going to start charging in, but moving around. On the left flank, things are going much better for me than the right flank. We've been able to rat off one of his Handmaidens. We're starting to collapse his flank a little bit. The Forsaken are not in great shape, but the Chaos Marauders are okay. And over here we have the Demon Spew, who are, you know, my best regiment around that I brought with me in this battle. As you can see, over here, Dav is aggressively trying to pick up Sarthrell. Makes sense. He's unbreakable. He's huge. He can do a lot of damage to infantry. So yeah, trying to get him right now would be, you know, obviously a huge pickup. But we're able to sort of, you know, do the dipsy-do, get out of there. My Chosen somehow get on the Science of Mathalhan, and then it's just a bad fight for them. I mean, they're not that great. They're not that important, rather, to this fight. So putting damage on them isn't going to be the end of the world. That's one of Alarielle's banishments, who I run my hounds into. It's not going to be good for me, but whatever. They actually get stopped. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it did some damage to me, but also did a lot of damage to his Phoenix Guard. He's still, again, aggressively trying to kill Sarthrell, but I'm bringing all my skirmish units from over here to try and help out. Of course, she doesn't have that much armor, and she's lost her physical physical resist. Why does she still have physical resist, I wonder? Let's see here. She still has 12, and that might be from... That should be from these guys, but they should be too far. I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, she casts her last heal spell, and then she moves right out of it. So that was a bit of a misplay by Dav. There was no reason to have that Star of Avalon cast right there. She's not taking damage fast enough to justify it. But I am getting her mucked up against these guys. And now that Sarthrell's free to just do what he does, which is fly in and, you know, cycle charge. And see, just look how much damage he does to these guys. And they are affected by Plague of Rust, so that's going to help. So yeah, it's difficult to sort of justify bringing these guys at times because they're just easy, they're pretty easy to deal with. Over here, I am, you know, pretty happy with her being locked down, but I think she is benefiting from that high the high damage resist, which is helping her. Around, he's brought these Wineslight Thrace who are over here fighting who knows what, and I'm just going to try and cycle charge and get some damage and try and hurt morale. They are crushing my Mirror Guard and this Forsaken, so that's not great for me. Over here, the Chosen are still fighting slowly against the Science of Mathalhan, not the greatest, again, engagement. I sort of abandoned these Wildlands. I don't really need to fight them. And at this point, it did not look good. The balance bar is in Dah's favor, not heavily, but, you know, enough. I have the mobility. But I started with the mobility. He didn't bring a single cav unit except for these two Handmaidens. So I have the mobility on Gav, but I do not have a good many units that can deal with the White Lions and the Keepers of Flame, unless I can continuously cast Plague of Rust. and I use Sarthrel judiciously. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be as very efficient with Sarthrel, casting Plague of Rust when I can. There she goes to Plague of Rust. Probably overdone. I didn't realize. Sorry, that was overkill. I didn't realize that she only needed to. She only had 30 armor, but at 0 armor in this pack of doom. The Chaos will be able to whittle her down. Over here, finally, the Mirror Guard have shattered. Well, not shattered, but broken. They're ready to leave. But, I mean, we took down the Keepers of the Flame pretty high. And now we're getting some kills with these Javelins. Why not? And we have been able to kill the other Handmaidens. So the 2 Handmaidens are off the field. These guys, I didn't realize they were back. I should have reactivated them. I was too busy, aggressively pathing Sarthrel to avoid the sniping, which is Dav is, again, trying to accomplish. Over here, we're just throwing Javelins and everything, but that's not going to be the greatest. I think that's an Earthblood going down, which that's like the 8th Earthblood. And especially one thing to note is that whenever she casts Earthblood, they get Life Bloom and the something of Sapphire, whatever it's called, this one. That's poison. Never mind. Earthblood. So and the Shield of Sapphire. So whenever she casts Earthblood, they get 11% damage resistance for 9 seconds, which is really good. Obviously, that's going to help. It's not going to, oh, pardon me. Oh, I'm a burpy fool today. Yeah, I'm a little burpy boy today. A little burpy boy. But, yeah, obviously it's not going to, sway a battle, too much in one favor or the other, but it will help in a longer, atrocious fight. And it's probably one of the reasons the Chosen took so long to get rid of those Mathlahannies. Where they are. They're running away now. But the Chosen are coming in, and they're very, very healthy. Of course, they won't be able to kill White Lions that great, but White Lions will have struggled to kill with them, just because they have such high... they have very high melee defense stats, and of course the Demon Spew are lowering their stats, but once the Demon Spew are gonna flee eventually, and they have such low melee defense that doesn't really matter. The White Lions will still be able to cut through them. These Chaos Warriors with Halberds are going to go down, but the Phoenix Guard are at like 7 at this point, the Keepers of the Flame, so a couple more cycle charges will deal with them, but they just, they're obviously not going to rout their Phoenix Guard. They have 33 health left over how many units? 4, so that's, they are really going to fight to the end. Those guys are no joke. I do start to reactivate my troops at this point where I see this whole army's over here, so I prefer bringing them back. I am getting some cycle charges in, I'm picking off their routing units. He is still, again, aggressively trying to get Sarthrel, but she doesn't do that much damage. Obviously, Sarthrel doesn't have the highest armor, but he does have magic resist, I believe? No, he doesn't have magic. Oh, he does have. Let's see. I'm pretty sure he has magic resist, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have to pause it. He does have 25% magic resistance, so that is going to negate, a quarter of her damage, because she does have magic melee attacks, which, something to note. And that helps against the Handmaidens as well. Not to mention, I think these guys have magic attacks too. Yeah, so in this matchup, he is just fantastic, because if they do bring Keepers of the Flame or Alariel, Sarthrel's going to be really hard to kill. Not to mention he can just... Oh, and there goes the last of the Azurian, the Keepers of the Flame, rather. Not to mention he can just sort of, do his dipsy-do and avoid those archer shots. But at this point, she's caught in there. The Chosen have been able to clean up these damaged White Lions of Thrace, who are still pretty garbage. And now she's caught in this little mob, and it's looking good for Sakarma at this point. Not a whole lot Jav can do. She's at 0 armor after the Plague of Rust. Her leadership's at negative 154. That's got to be it. I guess she's shattered at this point because of army losses. But yeah, that's pretty silly. Pretty silly. Oh, I had a little lisp there. Oh. Anyways, pretty silly. Okay, so let's look at what was done this game by my Forces of Chaos. So over here, 74 kills by Forsaken. That's probably on Spearman. I don't know where that silver chevron came off. Maybe I had some extra funds. I think I just poured extra funds into them, so I just had somewhere to throw it, so I threw it in them. But obviously that's not, that's not from fighting, because they did pretty poorly. This wasn't a matchup that they were really meant for. There was no large units except for these 3, and they were never going to get on them in the first place. Again, I brought them because I thought I was going to face Wood Elves, so I was expecting very kitey, and then I wanted to have, one thing I could do, at least just stand there and maybe be able to kill some Wild Riders if they charged in. Of course, Marauder Horsemen are very good against Wild Riders. They can, outrange them, outpace them, and shoot them, alongside Chaos Warriors with Poison especially. Chosen, pardon me. Solid unit. I think they're one of the better units on the Chaos roster right now. I mean, their cost is pretty prohibitive, but not too bad. And with the silver shields and 120 armor and really high melee stats and defense stats, it makes them, a really good holding force, really good frontline unit just throw in there. I mean, they'll deal with anything pretty well. Obviously, you don't want to put them against like Hargonath Executioners. I don't know why I'm talking about this. You guys know about this shit. Let's look at how the Demon Spew did. So they were fighting on the right flank, on my right flank, and Dav's left. So that was easy fodder for them. They were killing mainly Spearmen, but once they got in against the White Lions, it wasn't a great matchup for them. Mirror Guard, same thing. They were fighting the Keepers of the Flame the whole battle, which is not a great fight for them. But as you see, the Keepers of the Flame only got 51 kills, so not really effective. These guys performed much better. The Pyramid Company, they were probably the MVP for Dav's forces, alongside the Everqueen's Court Guards, opposed to the Ever Queen's Court Guards, who were just pretty shut down quite early through the Searing Doom and then some charges and just my massive army. I didn't have any big, this was sort of like an anti-Kolek build. I think Dav was expecting like double Shaggoth, and I guess a double Shaggoth build this would be quite good. You have the Handmaidens, you have the Ever Queen's Court Guards, you have some units that can hold the middle and do some armor piercing. So yeah, and then of course these guys would be very good against a Shaggoth. So a Kolek or anything along those lines, or Summoners of Rage. Yeah, against those guys, these guys would be pretty fantastic. So yeah, I guess I just sort of a different pick than Dav was expecting. But anyways, yeah, GG to Dav. Again, I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. And thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And we're gonna be hitting you with all the Queen and the Crone DLC action the rest of the week leading up right to the release. And John Ton said we'll be talking a little bit about the meta and how we think it's going to pan out as we become more acquainted with this new with the new content and see how it will impact each faction's sort of overall place in the Warhammer multiplayer community, how it's going to really sort of position them. Obviously 5 days or 7 days or even 10 days is not really enough to figure out all the different builds that could be constructed and how different factions match up, but we'll do our best to give an impression of how it's going to sort of alter the meta. Anyways, thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this display of new units and Regiments of Renown, and I'll see you around the bend.